There we go. All right. Oh, and Ryan's coming in. We are live. Epic collapse here in the second half.
Yeah. Hard to say I didn't see it coming.
It's froze up here in the last bit. I mean, gave up 9-point lead and then froze up in the last couple minutes. Stopped making shots, gave them free throws constantly, it felt like, every time they came down the court. I know we evened it up in free throws in the stats, but it feels like they got so many more second half chances or second chance points and free throws. And
don't freak out too much. We just fouled way too much. That's all it is.
No, I think we look good altogether. That's what sucks, that we are going to lose this game and collapse in the second half when we played so well in so many different aspects.
And it doesn't matter that much, fortunately.
Damn, this Jacoby guy is good. Ben's going to 10 of 10 from free throw line. That's what the difference was. That's what Ben would say, at least.
Well, when it came to coming to a half-court game in the second half, that made the difference. I don't think we're quite there yet.
But that came all down to free throws, right? Or down to fouls. We would have kept running if we could, but it was a foul every single time, so it just slowed the game down every time.
Hey, this is a Bruce Pearl team, though. Now this is going to be fun this year. But they got to learn how to do it. Play with that level of intensity consistently, and be able to have your brain about you in key moments when it comes to fouls, and adjust to how refs are calling it and all that stuff. So it's hard. It's hard to do. I always watch his teams play, and it's like, how do you be at that level?
They had the depth going there for a little bit, felt like.
Yeah, I mean, you see the Clay. You see why he's excited, for sure.
I mean, if you'd asked me before this game if I would have taken this game, I would say 100%. But hurts to still watch the end here. Some of the Aiden, man, played so great, but there was a couple of those late long threes that was like, okay, all right.
You're going to have to learn to live with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought he played great.
There's a lot of different things. There's a lot of different angles you could take with this, right? Like, you could say, we don't really know. Like, most of our team, let's say half our team, has not played against a high-level Division I team before. Like, you have Aiden, you have Denver, you have Cheney, you have, some of those guys, like, have never played against this type of talent before. So, we don't really know our rotations. We don't really know what gels. Like, some of those guys, like, Baylor is kind of what they are. Like, I know they're young too, but, like, that's who they are moving forward. We don't really know who we are moving forward. Like, we didn't really work the ball inside that much. Jalen kind of didn't like his matchup, so he just disappeared. It's like
both guys at the 4 position. It wasn't like Cheney did anything either. I don't even know what Cheney looks like, I feel like, at the end of the game. I'm not sure which one he is.
That's going to be Cheney all year. Wait, what are we going to do? What are we going to run for him? He's just an athlete out there.
I can run anything for him or Chris Moore.
That's another shame. Well, who was guarding their really good guy, Jacoby? Is that our point guards?
He's a guard.
Who knows? Because we kept fouling.
No,
I'm just wondering how our power forwards ended up with 4 fouls each with like 15 minutes left, and we had to play Lior.
That's not hard. You just got to watch.
best third string in the game, honestly, or best third stringer in the SEC. But man, it's still tough to have to bring him in at 15 minutes in.
I mean, look, like we could Bruce, Matt and I talked about this. Bruce talked about in his press conference that he wants us to kind of be exposed, right? Like we didn't get exposed against AUM or Furman. It would have been one thing to play against Southeastern Louisiana the first game of the year. But I mean, look, like there's a lot to be excited about here. Yeah, it sucks we didn't close it out, but I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to feel like, hey, it's a good loss because we clearly should have won that game. But also at the same time, it's like you have a lot you can take and work from this.
I'm way more excited. Way more excited.
This was not a team I saw against AUM, by the way.
I was going to ask you because you were there. Like, I was so pleasantly surprised by how most, not all, but most of our guys looked the part. I mean,
I came away from the AUM game kind of like, nah. Like that first half team in the first half was not the team we saw against AUM or anything like that. So look, like it's difficult because we want to win that game, but at the same time, it's like you could clearly see there's a lot we got to take away from it, and fouling and learning some of the new rules and being too aggressive and slowing the game down, like half court too. Like there's some things you could take away from it.
All right. Well, I guess we better, us giving the live here a minute. We wanted to start the live a little earlier without the game ending or whatever, but we can go ahead and just do the podcast. It's late. It's 11:30. Let me make sure my computer's plugged in and then we'll start.
You want me to record, Jackson, or are you going to?
You'll record, Matt. And anybody in the chat before we start recording, let us know what you want us to talk about. If you're not familiar with the show, we've got our usual, we don't usually do this live thing. We're hoping to do it after every game. So,
I mean, I have a great comparison about what that loss felt like. It just hit me.
All right, I can throw it to you.
Justin Ferguson might have just said the same thing. Go ahead.
Oh, really?
What was your guess or what was your instinct?
I mean, in terms of good losses, like, I don't know, 2021.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. UConn. Yeah,
UConn. That's a great call.
You got to hope that this Baylor team's as good as we think they might be. They looked really good out there. I feel like that was two really good teams.
That's the takeaway. Not to steal our thunder, but the takeaway is I thought I watched two tournament teams today.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt like March, like heavyweight battle. I mean, from the get-go, that felt like a March game. I mean, I was like standing up this close from the TV, like trying to feel like
I was standing, yeah. What all do I need to say at the beginning of the podcast? Score. I mean, the usual stuff, but I wanted to say stuff at the top, like tune in after YouTube, give us some reviews or whatever. New York City Auburn Club, buy some tickets for that game.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else I need to say? I mean, it's the start of the year. Some people are not going to be familiar with us from last year, so I feel like I need to give a longer intro than usual. Whatever, it'll come to me like it always does. It's not that serious.
Yeah, just do your thing. This is your spiritual gift, Jackson. This is what you're here for. I trust you implicitly.
All right, Ryan. Everybody ready? Yeah, hit the record whenever you're ready.
All right. 3, 2. Oh, I need permission.
I got it. All right, guys. We are back. Auburn basketball is back. Matt is back. Ryan is back. Ben is back. Your host, Jackson, is back. An exciting shootout game. Thrilling, but ultimately a loss. We have lost to Baylor, the number 20 team Baylor, 88 to Auburn, 82. We looked great out there, honestly. We knew this was going to be tough. We were going to be playing a very good team while other teams are playing really crappy teams. And some teams like Michigan State are losing to those crappy teams. We played this thing in South Dakota for some reason. If you know why we played in South Dakota, I am very interested and would love to know. Put together by Complete Sports Management, which did our Bahamas tournament and our Israel stuff. So shout out to Lee Milatuli. Check out our interview with her if you want to give a chance. Check out any of our interviews. If you're new to this, hopefully you're all back. Hopefully everybody's back from last year, but hopefully we have some new people too. And hopefully, check us out. Tons of great interviews to go back through. Former players, former head coaches like Sonny Smith, current head coaches like Bruce Pearl. Go back through our interview if you can. Just good to be back. Other stuff at the top. We're going live on YouTube after every game this season. We just thought we'd throw it out there. We already record after every game. So we said, why not just bring this together a little bit, a little camaraderie. I was hoping it was going to be a virtual Tombers Corner where we could all celebrate together after a great win against Baylor in that first half. But now, we just get to talk about this stuff together, talk about our feelings together, like Ryan was saying in the chat over here. It's just good to be back. Little collapse in the second half. Last thing to say before I throw it to everybody else. New York City Auburn Club has tickets for sale to the Brooklyn Legends tournament against Notre Dame and whoever else are playing in it. Buy your tickets now. It got extended to the Auburn fan section for another week. Me and Ben both live in New York, so we're very excited to see everybody up here. Excited to see the New York alums up here. Excited to see the team live. So check that out. And to start the season off, guys, what I want to say is I want to say your name and I want to hear War Eagle. Matt.
War Eagle.
Ryan. Ryan.
War Damn Eagle.
All right. Hey. Quick thoughts, Matt. Quick thoughts here.
I also just wanted to mention tickets are going to be going on sale through the Nashville Auburn Club for the Auburn Vanderbilt game in Nashville in January. That's coming faster than you think. So if you are close to Nashville and want to make that trip, it was a lot of fun last year. I would echo Jackson. Go watch this team play wherever you can. Quick thoughts. This team's better than I thought based on one game. We're going to say it all night. We're not going to overreact. It's one game. We've made a lot of silly predictions over the years after one game, but I think this team looks the part. I think there's a lot of great pieces on it. I was really happy with just how we matched up and how we competed. And I am more positive about this team than I was probably the negative one on the podcast coming into this game. I'm a little more positive.
Ryan, what do you think? Quick thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because you have a lead, you feel like you're going to win, and then all of a sudden you get hit with reality and the game's over, and you're like, wow, what happened? But you can only go up from there, right? Like, we got exposed. We could learn some things. I think I mentioned this before we started. We had some things that some players who have not played in this competition before, and we don't really know what we have. We don't really know our rotations, starting lineups, all this stuff. Like what do we have moving forward? And I think we can only work from that moving forward. And now we have some games coming up that we can work on it. So it sucks, but we had a good showing. That's all we could ask for, really.
Yeah, I'm looking over here at the chat. I was thinking maybe I could go through the narrative of this game a little bit. I feel like this is one of those games you have to talk about the narrative of kind of like the back and forth of what happened in this game. To start, we got Connor Feemster saying, ugh, FJ Tab, man, the refs absolutely suck. I agree. A lot of fouls this game early too. Lots of players in foul trouble. Miles Nordgren said Junai played terribly in the last 7 minutes, almost like he got the yips. Yeah, that was really weird. He was hitting threes, looking beautiful, and then airballed a free throw at the end. It was kind of brutal.
So there was one thing where he looked down at his hand. I don't know if anybody noticed that. And then after that, it was like nothing. He was airball free throws. I don't know if the shoulder thing happened again, but yeah, there was some of that he was looking at after a certain thing with Aiden, and it was weird. I don't know.
JPA for AU says, best I felt about the team since the COVID season. Did you forget that we had a #1 ranking 2 years ago and won the SEC? But maybe you didn't like that team. Maybe you didn't like the Jabari Walker Kessler team.
He might be talking about the beginning of the season.
Maybe. I felt good. I mean, that's why we started this podcast. Yeah. We wanted to talk about how good that team was. We had Jabari on it. We felt good about the Walker 5-star guy coming over.
Revisionist history. No, we didn't feel that good about Walker.
Not that good, but we felt good about it. We felt excited about the potential. Yeah, anyways, let me talk on narrative here. We come into this We're not sure what's going to happen. I personally thought we were going to get beat by Baylor pretty good. I thought they were a talented team, ranked, but we're not quite there yet. We're going to have some early growth issues. But maybe the pace was amazing. Back and forth, this pace went crazy. The first rotation took out everybody but Joe Nye, and they just kept it going. Constantly back and forth, tons of points off fast breaks. At one point, we were leading a lot in points off turnovers. We might have still led off that. I need to pull up the stat sheet here in a minute, but it was just frantic, fast paced, and he felt like we got the better of that. They were hitting some shots. We were hitting a lot of stuff in the fast paced game there. And then in the second half, we came back out. We were up 9 points, I believe, going into halftime. And I said, all right, let's see if we can keep it. Immediately gave up 8 points, 7 points, something like that, right out of the house. They came right back, just went right back to square zero, like that first half never happened. And then on top of that, we could not get them running again. There was a lot of foul trouble on our players. We were in the double bonus, I believe, or they were in the double bonus with like 15 minutes left. Chad Baker-Mazar was playing really well in the first half, got 4 fouls on him, didn't really see him much in the second half. Chris Moore had a lot of hustle plays in the first half. Again, 4 fouls. Didn't really see much out of him in the second half. Had to play Lior. Everything just started kind of falling apart as soon as we had these weird rotations with foul trouble. Every time we played great on offense, honestly, in the second half. We kept coming down, making big shots, including Aiden Holloway, which we'll get to for sure. Other players making great shots too. But what seemed to happen over and over again is we'd have to go down, make a great shot. They'd come back down, get a foul, hit their free throws. It was just back to square one every single time. And you're just overall a long game. The free throw shooters are going to win. You're going to start missing your shots. You're going to turn the ball over some if every single time they're going to have a free throw on the other side. I believe stat wise, it ended up being pretty even in free throws, but it felt like overall the game slowed down a ton in the second half. And that's what really got us. They went on a second, Baylor did, on a second great run. I think at the 6-minute mark, maybe we were up 6. And then after that, Baylor just tore us up. We started missing shots. We started turning the ball over. They were hitting everything. They were getting their free throws. Maybe we were even getting tentative maybe with our foul trouble. There were some interesting narratives with charges. People were trying to figure out exactly how charges were going to work this year. We'll have to, the team will have to learn that through the season. Us fans will have to learn that through the season. You can talk about the refs. We always talk, we try not to blame the refs. We try not to be the podcast or the fans that are constantly talking about it. But it was a big narrative this game. There was a lot of weird whistles, a lot of soft fouls. Both teams had to deal with it. So Matt, Ryan, any thoughts on narrative there? Did I do a good job of explaining kind of the back and forth of that game?
Yeah. I mean, I thought the pace is the thing that stood out for sure. Our depth showed in a lot of really good ways. I thought our veterans did a really good job in the second half. Like you said, they pulled even early with the foul trouble, and we still built we're up 5 or 6 at the under 4 timeout. Or we had the ball, I think, up 5, under 4 minutes to go. So not great down the stretch. Some missed opportunities, a couple turnovers that really swung the game. It's amazing how much emphasis and energy we put in these games. And you realize the more and more you watch them, it comes down to this race to the last minute and who has the pole position. And Baylor stole the position from us in the last 3 or 4 minutes. And then you're the one fouling. You're the one having to hit shots. To me, the narrative is this team is incredibly athletic. You can see why Bruce likes it. The shooting was good. I mean, we were threats from a lot of parts of the floor. I love what we did with some of the 5-out stuff with Deny. I see what Bruce, I guess, was seeing in the offseason. Like, hey, I really like this group. You could just kind of tell the way he was talking about it. But obviously, at this point, Bruce is in year 9 with us. We know what this looks like. The little flying tigers, ton of fun to watch. But what if you go back a couple years? What were the keys in those games? When the refs call it tight, how do his teams handle it? And then in the half court on offense, when things slow down, how does his team handle it? And I feel like it's going to come back to those two things. I think it's totally correctable. Ryan made a great point. Some of these new guys, all the new guys, right, hadn't played a team on this level ever. They kind of got thrown into the fire. I was really pleased overall, but some of those, I'm personally not going to be mad at the refs. I thought we committed a lot of silly fouls. I thought we were grabbing, and maybe as we got tired in the second half, a lot of holding and a lot of just We just did. And look, nobody can sustain what we were doing for 40 minutes. Let's be clear. That was some chaotic, frantic stuff. I'm rambling, but really pleased with the pace, really pleased with the athleticism and the overall effort. We just, like all Bruce Pearl teams I've ever seen, we're going to have to find that line of when and how to use that and not let it become your detriment. And I think we saw in the second half what happened.
We've overreacted, or at least I have, every single year to the first game. Last year, we thought Chance Westry was going to be the man after the first game. So I'm trying my best. I'm going to try my best not to overreact to every little thing in this game. But it's nice that it's against a good team. So you can kind of hopefully, or at least we think that Baylor's really a good team. Before we started the live broadcast, I think we were talking about how it felt like a matchup, or the game overall felt like a game of two great teams up against each other. The kind of team, I mean, they always talk about this in broadcast. It's almost a cliche at this point. This feels like a round of 32 game. This feels like a Sweet 16 game. Oh, this feels like a Final Four game, whatever. We'll see what it is at the end of the year, but it felt like a deep tournament game. It felt like a Sweet 16 weekend, or even more, like back and forth, great shots. It didn't feel like two teams that didn't know what they need to do out there. The weirdest part, or interesting part, that maybe Ryan could talk about and see what you think about this, times got tough at the end. It really spread it out. I mean, so many different players had different moments. Like, I mean, each time somebody had a big moment, or two or three in a row, it's like, all right, it's going to be this guy's game. This guy's coming up. No, like so many players had big moments. I'm wondering, Ryan, near the end when things got tough, who were we supposed to go to? Because we're still learning so much. And who are we going to go to? I mean, you can't, it's one game, but we'll find out after 10. But,
I think the guy you're going to go to is Aiden Holloway. I mean, the dude's a baller, and you can see that. And we just don't, we haven't practiced that yet. We haven't been in that situation. And if you're down by 4 or 3 or whatever, like, he's going to be our guy. You can clearly tell, and you can see throughout the game who's going to be our starting point guard moving forward. Like, let's be real here. Like, I think we all kind of underrated or underestimated just how good he is. But because we're a little gun shy with our 5 stars, right? With Chance or with Johan, but dude's the real deal. So yeah, it's tough because, like, I think by SEC play, it's just going to depend, right? Like, Jalen used to be that guy, because someone mentioned in the chat, where was Jalen? And quite honestly, like, we've talked on this podcast a lot, Jalen plays his matchup. I don't think he liked his matchup tonight, so he disappeared. Or we didn't run anything for him, so he just disappeared the flow of the game. I mean, it's weird. But in some games, you're going to see him have 22 to 25 points or 18 points, and he's going to be that guy at the end. So, it's tough to say. I don't know. Like, Denver Jones, I think, got the basket really easily, but there's that big-time level of basketball that I don't think he's quite there yet, that he just tried to lay it up, but there was a guy falling right behind him. It's all learning experiences, and it's exposure. And we're just not quite there yet, and that's okay. If this is the only game we lose, what if this is the only game we lose in non-conference? Let's just throw that out there.
We got a hard non-conference this year. This isn't like last year's. If we don't lose one, if this is the only one we lose non-conference, it'll be a top 15 team at the end, right? I'm
saying that could be the case.
No overreacting on the first game, but here we are.
but if you look at the teams that played over this past weekend, they did not play well. We came out here and played against a team that's probably going to compete top 3 in the Big 12. We got a lot of things to figure out. We may not lose a game in the non-conference.
A big question for both teams is their 5-star freshmen coming in. Are they legit? And if you plug in, if you tell me before the season, the difference, like, hey, Aiden is legit as Sharif Cooper was when he came in, he's going to be a star. My expectations do change. I'm like, yeah, we definitely should be top 25, top 20. Baylor's probably saying the same thing as a 20 team worked at 20, that if their 5-star guy plays as well as he did tonight, where's his stats here? How much did he end up scoring? 28 points. Then yeah, that might have changed their preseason ranking. I think if you told people the guys going to come in and score 28, they might be a top 10 team. Well, so yeah, you might be right. This could have been, I mean, the keys looked right. The people we worried about and wanted to see looked like we wanted to see them.
Well, that's what, like, I'm not trying to say, like, we're going to lose it. We're not going to lose in their non-conference game. Like, that's maybe unrealistic. But if you look at the teams that do well in March and in the past few years, this is the type of team that's built to do well in those type of games moving forward. Like in those expectations, like who knows? Like who knows what freshmen are going to show up? Who knows how those players are going to play? We know who we have in some of our returning players. So are our players who are new going to step up and play well? And there were moments tonight they did. So you got to expect that's only going to get better.
So if you've listened to this podcast for the last 2 years, you know after wins, we usually do MVP. And by usually, I mean I'm adamant that we pick an MVP after every win, and it creates some good discussion. If you're new, that's what we do. When we lose, we've tried to figure out a different thing that's quite as catchy as the MVP. What we seem to have picked on to is which stat points out the most to how we lost, like whichever stat was the most important way we ended up losing the game. We have some stats over here. Matt, I don't know if you want to maybe read through some of them that look important to you on there. I mean, a lot of even ones, surprisingly.
Yeah, remind me. I want to circle back on some of the closing stuff. To me, it's fairly shocking when you watch the game that we didn't win turnovers. The fact that we built a pretty strong first half, winning those possessions, getting extra possessions, and then that kind of got reversed. So being tied 15-15 there didn't feel right for the way the game went. Ultimately, to me, it's 32 fouls. That's an insanely high number. I think we had 2 or 3 intentionals down the stretch, maybe, but 30 fouls in a game. You can talk all about the officiating you want, and they did tighten the whistle after halftime, but just a lot of silly, a lot of out of control, away from the basket. We love Anthony McLemore on this podcast, but you and I used to talk about, especially in his first couple of years, he would come in off the bench at center and just always, it was like a magnet.
There's always one reach in. There was always one reach in at the top of the key where you were just like, how is that the foul you want to give up?
So if I had to pick one, I think it's the fouls. And we just have some guys. There needs to be a word for this, but Chris Moore and Jalen Williams are guys that are just going to get bad calls all the time. And I'm convinced it's because of how they look sometimes on the floor. And I'm used to that. And then so that happened. KD, is going to commit some silly fouls trying to cause chaos. And I was kind of shocked that Chad Baker-Mazara was that out of control and completely just he's the main culprit to me of some fouls where I'm just like, dude, like they're in the double bonus. You can't, like, where are we thinking? So fouls to me is probably the biggest thing. It was pretty even. And again, it should be. We had every opportunity to win down the stretch and just didn't hit some shots late.
Is there a second chance points stat on here? It felt like they got, I know that we
17.
ended up
17-12.
17-12. That was a decent one. My pick here, I'll let Ryan go after my pick here, is similar to Matt's on fouls, but they made 34 free throws to our 25 free throws, or sorry, they made 27 free throws to our 17. That's what I was looking for. 10 more points from free throws. I mean, the game, what was the final score of the game here?
Well, I mean, some of that's inflated
too. So
yeah,
still, it feels like that's a big part of it right there. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the turnovers being 15-15. That's surprising to me also, because we had built such a big lead in the turnover margin. And so that really shows that when we say we collapsed down the stretch, that's where the turnovers were for them. They evened it back up, and that's how they won the game. Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty even. I'd probably have to go with just fouls in general, or I don't know. It's hard to pick a stat because it's so even. It just has to go kind of with the flow of the game, right? And I think a lot of people were talking about our rotations or bench points, and I think you're going to see that like those majority of our bench points came from Aiden Holloway. I think you're going to see that change. I think you're going to see things probably Friday. Maybe it's the same. I don't know. But yeah, it's difficult. We could pick and point things out, but I'd love to revisit this in 5 or 6 games to see kind of where we stand based off of this game. Are we still on the same track? Are we just who we are? Because we had guys coming off injury too. So was Janai really that healthy? All that stuff. So in terms of your original question, stat, I'll probably just say free throws and fouls, as that just kind of changed the flow of the game in the second half. But other than that, everything's pretty much similar.
Let's mention. I wanted to build off what Ryan said earlier. Like, fascinated. We've talked all offseason about the potential, who's starting, who's finishing, these rotate. Like, so it was kind of weird with the foul trouble, but let's just talk through what we saw here in the last, 5 to 6 minutes of the game. Aiden clearly was the more effective point guard. Trey did some nice things, but Aiden got the shot at finishing it. He did not thrive in the last 5 minutes, but that doesn't, to me, take away from what he did. So he finished at the one. KD was on the floor until about 2 minutes left, and then they kind of switched to Denver. So I think that's going to be a fascinating one to watch. Because who starts, who cares? Who's playing more minutes and who's finishing is what we're looking for. At the 3, Chris Moore's finishing, I guess.
There's the foul trouble, so it's hard to tell.
He was in foul trouble too. I think they both had 4. So Bruce made a choice. Jalen finished, obviously, because Chaney is the good backup. And then Janai, obviously. So there's something to watch at the 1, 2, and 3 positions of who's going to be finishing these games. It goes to what we were talking about earlier about who's going to make those plays, who's going to have the ball in their hands. We've seen it time and time again. Bruce Pearl in this offense, the point guard is going to have the ball a lot. And what does he do with it? And overall, at some point, we need to just probably start diving into players. But
I was about to say. And there's so many players that had so many moments this game. It's so entertaining. And Ryan left the room for some reason here, but he's come back in. But it was so entertaining, and there's so many moments. I mean, it's hilarious. The less info you have, the more you start projecting out. And early on, when Denver was kind of the guy, okay, he's starting to score. Okay, he hit an open 3. All right, so Denver's going to be the guy. We feed the ball through. Oh, man, Aiden's killing it. Oh, my God. Oh, wow, Chad Baker-Mazar. Wow, two steals in a row. Oh, man, he looks so smooth going to the basket. He gets a call every time he goes to the basket. There was just so many moments. Oh, Joe Knight's hitting a 3. No way. He's hitting his 3s. So many different players had big moments where I kept thinking and projecting out, okay, now he's the guy. Now he's the guy. And honestly, you just got to hope that, if they're all the guy, I thought they all had their moments where they were the guy, which is unsustainable. So we're gonna really and my thing about roles. I'm a big roles guy, so I don't think we learned very much tonight on roles, other than maybe that Aiden is legit and is gonna need a big role. Even if he's not a starter, he's gonna play more minutes than Trey, I think, at this point. I mean, they were projecting too much, like I'm saying, with Chad Westry last year. I mean, Aiden might just look terrible next game and ruin everything, but maybe I would say the best thing we could do right now is just look at the stats here on players and just tell me what player you want to talk about most.
Let's talk a little bit more about Aiden. I think that's
you got to do it. You got to do it. He would have been the MVP if we won, right?
For those of us, yeah, him or Janai. Aiden, it's so fascinating. I'm not somebody who sits here and watches film of all of our recruits, right? That's why we have Ryan and other people to do that. So I was so thrilled to watch him play because I've been really high on him. Jackson and I have had this running argument about Jackson wanted us to sign another player in this class out of high school, an elite player, which for most of this game, the narrative for me was, man, Bruce's strategy of being old and having a lot of veterans with a few key young talent, this looks really nice. But I thought Aiden, take away the turnovers, some of the missed questionable shots. He belonged off an ankle injury, a small ankle injury. He looked fine. He looked fast. He looked in control. Pure shot. The first 3, he hit that potential 4-point play on his first 3-pointer. And it looked, the way he shot it and the way that how quickly he got into it, that was I had a Jared Harper, literally just, it looked like Jared. And it kind of blew my mind. And I was just
Jared the guy you would compare him to? Because I was comparing him all game to Sharif Cooper. The stop and go ability he had, the way he could collect fouls on people. Sharif Cooper is my I'll never get over those games that Sharif Cooper came in and started scoring 30 points every single game, and just nobody could stop him. And every time he drove and made those little stops, and we get the foul call every single time. Now, he didn't look quite like that, but it was giving shades of it. And that's why I said, let's go get another guy. I thought we needed an NBA style guy that could finish the basket. Somebody tough, someone that's no one else can stop. But the speed from Aiden, like those little moments, I was like, oh, that's different. Like, because I knew he could shoot some threes. I knew maybe he could pass. He was quick, but it was the moments towards the basket, the little stop and go motions to catch the fouls that I was like, wow, that's what's really different.
How about the look ahead passes? He had a couple that were bad, but just the fact that you're even saying that sentence, first of all, because Sharif couldn't shoot. So, and he is not Sharif Cooper as a point guard yet, as a passer at all. I mean, he's not there. But you're right.
You can't make that. I'll never see another passer like that.
But he's an elite shooter and showed some of those abilities. So if you're looking, great. I thought it was as good of a. There's no way they were going to play him 26 minutes in their game plan. So he played more, and he played for longer stretches than probably the coaches would have liked with Trey's foul trouble. But he clearly rose to the challenge, and they rode with him at the end. He is clearly a weapon for this team.
Right. Is there a player besides Aiden you really wanted to talk about? Anybody stick, good or bad? I know you were going off about Jalen earlier.
Yeah, I mean, that's always going to be the guy I look at, because honestly, our teams in the past, our team last year went with how he went. And I don't know if that's going to stay true this year. I also think it's going to be an interesting dynamic between our identity. Like, our identity last year was through low post play. And Wendell shooting threes, because that's the only person. Yeah, because that's the only person who can shoot threes, and getting offense started through our defense. That's obviously not the case this year. So how is that going to affect our guys down low? Because their volume, I need the ball guys like Janai, once that ball was back to the basket, or now he's shooting 2 or 3 from the three. So what is that going to look like moving forward, as we now have guys that can obviously shoot the ball a little better, with Denver going 3 of 5, with Aiden going 4 of 8. Like, we've got some guys who are clearly knockdown shooters. So, and there were plenty of moments too where Trey drove the lane.
Broom going 2 of 3. Thank you very much.
I said that, did I?
Oh, you did? Sorry, I thought you said Denver Jones. My bad. Oh,
I might have missed Janai, but we talked about the end of the year last year. That is a key moving forward, is that he found a shot at a certain point. And it came true tonight, besides the air ball, but it happens. I see in the comments here, Otis Russell says, good game for both teams, and definitely healthy to a question you said earlier about Jonai. Josh says, Jalen or Denver going to step up for this team to be special? I thought Denver played pretty well. I think Denver's going to be interesting. I thought, like I said early on, he would have to be the guy we were going to be feeding. Like, he would be the leader of the offense, the guy when things get tougher, the ball would go to him. But man, with Aiden, the way he was playing, some of the other guys were playing. I mean, Jonai clearly has a great game underneath the basket. Now he's hitting threes. So we'll have to see where Denver Jones' spot is. And if he's like one of these alpha guys that wants the ball in his hand at all times, it might be an issue, because he's got a lot of other great players on this team. But luckily, I don't think Denver is supposed to be that guy. I think he's a really, really good shooter, and that's all he was at FIU. He was not a driver at all. So him driving to the basket this year is apparently brand new. Because
really, wow, it looks so smooth. That's what made me wonder, like, if he's going to have to be this guy that's finishing at the basket and he's hitting shots, he's going to be a Samir Dowdy style, where it's like, get the ball to this guy to play offense. Hope it's not, and it apparently not. And if it is just a guy that's going to hit open threes, amazing. And he did that this game, and that's something we didn't have last year. And it's like a breath of fresh air to have a guy that's open at the 3 line that's going to hit it. And I'm hoping the rest of the season we'll be watching him hit those the rest of the time.
Yeah,
the guy.
He from what Bruce said and from what scouts have said, like, at FIU, he was a pure scorer from beyond the arc or right side the arc, and you could tell, like, that's obviously the case there. And so Bruce brought him in to put some more weight on, try to get him to go to the basket more, because that's where obviously you have to succeed in SEC play to be good at that. And so you saw some glimpses of that tonight. You also saw him being immature in the fact that, like, you're driving the lane, you're wide open. You got to know someone's right behind you. Like, that's just in SEC or big time play. Like, there's always going to be someone crashing the rim for blocking and stuff like that. So, it's going to be interesting to see how he fits in the offense moving forward, because And that's could be part of like him moving forward this year, like getting better, understanding what we have. And that's just the first game of in a high level like that. That's a team that's going to be in the tournament, guys. Like that is impressive for us to not play at a high level with so many guys who have not played at that level before and do that good. It should have won the game. Like we're clearly better than that, honestly.
If you listen to our preseason pod, my big thing was that we were gonna have a black hole at the 3 position, and that was what I was so worried about. And oh my goodness, we're not gonna be able to hit a 3 on the wings. Oh my goodness, we won't be able to drive. I had a big thing with Alan Flanagan last year, who's gonna love these new charge rules. He might be thriving at Ole Miss with these new charge rules. But what I want to talk about is Chad Baker-Mazara. I thought he looked really smooth out there. His drives were great. He's so lanky and tall. If he keeps getting calls like that, I know he got calls in the exhibition game and got on the free throw line and hit all his free throws. This game, similar, got free throw calls, 3 of 3 there, and 1 situation. The other time he got 2 free throws, he ended up scoring 7 points. He got in foul trouble, which sucks. I don't remember off the top of my head, like, oh, bad defense, just grabbing there, whatever. Oh, Matt's raising his hand that he does. Maybe that's going to be an issue. I was impressed on offense, at least. His drives look really smooth. I would have loved to have seen a shot. I don't think he took a 3-point shot. I would love to see if he's got that in his arsenal. But something you're going to need out of the wing to hit those open threes when he kind of gets left behind. He had a moment where he got fouled on the way to the basket, and then he decided he was just going to finish with a dunk anyways that didn't count. And it looked very Cambridge-esque. That dunk went down hard, and I wonder if he's got that in his repertoire because the first drive he had was through 2 guys, like he was going to dunk on both of them. He ended up getting the foul call there and making both free throws. So I was impressed by how smooth he looked. Maybe this will be one of those game 1 situations where I over project and think he's going to look really good. And the rest of the games, he looks completely lost and awful, but I hope he's the guy I'm thinking he is, that he can drive and look smooth out there. That's all we need. A competent guy at the 3 position. Matt, you're raising your hand. Did he look really bad on defense?
Yeah. I mean, he only played 12 minutes, and you're right. For 2 minutes, he was the star.
Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot about the steals. Yeah, my bad. Yeah.
Steals. He played with a ton of passion. He's obviously very excited about this opportunity to play in a program like Auburn, and like this is a huge chance for him and Chaney and Denver and these guys. I think we shouldn't like take that lightly, and it showed. But here's my question. I thought this was fun. Based on 1 game, I think the answer is yes. But if you could clone Denver Jones right now and just have 2 of him, you would start him at the 3, right?
Yeah, I need to see more of Denver. There was this, like I said early on, I was like watching him, like thinking this is the guy I'm going to watch all game. He's going to be the star. He hit some open threes, but he also the first 2 possessions he got scored on. In fact, he's
not a good defender either.
No, yeah, he even got like his ankles broken. I think in the second one, I was like, this is what they were talking about when they were talking about bad defense. And he disappeared at times, but that's because we played so many platoons and so many different guys had their moments. So I really just don't know exactly what to think of Denver right now, honestly. So.
Well, I thought Denver looked the part and looked ready more than Chad did. I thought overall, because Denver's not a great defender, but he did give a lot of effort, and he was, and Chad was too. I'm not saying there wasn't effort. I just think Denver looked to me like somebody who I really trust, and I needed him to be that. Him and KD, I actually like that. I like that combination at the 2 position. 3, I am with you. I'm still Chad Baker-Mazara he's a fascinating player. But between him and Chris Moore and Leo, I don't know. I
guess it's because I expected so little from Chad Baker-Mazara and Chris Moore that we got something out of it. I'm feeling so good, but I think this might be, I could already feel it. I could already feel that this is, we look back on the first episode and I was praising this Chad Baker-Mazara, and 10 episodes in or into SEC play and be like, oh my God, he's so bad. I couldn't believe I thought so much of it,
Well, and you remember we talked about, because so much hype around Chaney, and maybe that's the guy we talk about now. So much. Chaney's so good. And he is a really good athlete, and I think he's going to be a good role player on this team. And I love him as a backup at the 4. He's kind of what we needed last year, honestly, based on 1 game. I'm just saying, I don't think he's going to play the 3. I don't think he's going to be better. People talked about, well, do we need to get Chaney on the floor? Do we need to get Jalen at the 3 so we can get Chaney on the floor? I don't think that's the case. So our hopes for the 3, and my hot take would be based on one game and overreacting, when do we see the Aiden, Katie, Denver
Oh, yeah.
regard? Because I think that's going to happen at some point.
We have a celebrity in the chat. Willie Whitelaw is in the chat. My boy Willie, living in Providence, Rhode Island right now, coming up for the Brooklyn game. If you want to see a celebrity at the Brooklyn game, Willie Whitelaw will be there. Let's see what else people are saying. Chris Thomas loved the three-point shooting. Oh my goodness, it felt so good to see those threes go in after a hard year last year.
And confident 3-point shooting.
Chris also had confident. We'll talk about Miles is talking about KD's back to his man. He's back to being manic with no composure. Does it hurt us? We'll get to KD in a bit. He was wild out there, giveth and taketh like he always does. Chris had another great comment. Broome was only 2 of 7 from inside 3. If that number is higher, we take over the game, and he was MVP. That's surprising. That was his game last year. Really clever underneath the basket. Hit some threes this game, which kind of covered that up, I guess. But y'all guys want to talk about Broome and the renaissance of his 3 and what he was doing the whole game?
It's crazy because, or not crazy, but they had like 3 huge dudes. They just keep throwing at us. I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce 2 of those names. But they were in there and they were bouncing on us, and I think he found more comfort outside the lane, and he wasn't really getting that many foul calls. And look, this is part of Jedi's game that I think people are starting to realize, and they realized last year he has no lift, 0 lift, and so
plays below the rim.
Yeah, so there was a spin move. I think in the very first of the game, he spun and the guy came weak side and just like completely threw his shot out. After that spin move, and it was like, man, he just has 0 lift. Like, it's either he can win a one-on-one matchup, but when he has weak side help coming, it's like he's toast, and then it's tough.
I think let's zoom out a little bit and just realize
to the 3-point line.
Well, no, I know. I'm actually going to go the opposite way. Last year, I still cannot believe last year we just were throwing it in the post. Like, I'm sure Bruce was dying. Like, what are we doing? We're just throwing it into this post guy and Pat posting up. Like, this is not – today is more like what our offense is supposed to look like. So he's not going to get as many traditional touches, which I didn't think he got as many today. But he did get to the free throw line 10 times. And I thought he matched – you're right. He went up against some big bodies and some depth there, which Cardwell did a good job too when he was in. But I thought Jedi was fine. 2 or 3 of those misses were on those tips at that one possession at the end. So I don't freak out too much about the 2-for-7 thing. He is a crafty, smart player. He's going to have a really good year. He had 16 and 11 in what we would all probably say was like, eh. So I just want to zoom out and realize, like, that's against that Baylor front line, that's not bad. And I think he's going to have a great year. And I just think the flow of the offense is going to be different this year. And part of it's going to be that 5 out, him being able to step out and hit some of those threes. But part of it's just we have more options. I think we can all agree after one game, we have more offensive options that are reliable than we did last year.
It'll be interesting to watch what his offense is. I mean, we had Anthony McLemore and Walker Kessler. That was that screen to that alley-oop situation. He is not an alley-oop guy from there. He can hit the 3, which Walker couldn't, Anthony could. So then what ends up being the move there? So he's at the 3 position. He's not running in to catch that alley-oop. Is he running in to then get a one-on-one back to the basket situation? Is he following for putbacks? What is like his go-to move now if it's not? I mean, like you said, it was just weird last year that ended up being what we were doing was tossing it into the guy. We don't do that. So then I wonder if we're going to revert to the Anthony McLemore kind of days, but he doesn't have the lift, like you said, of Anthony McLemore.
It's all 3. It's pick and pop to the 3-point line with the 5, which I love that we can do that. That's what McLemore, he could do both, right? He could attack the rim vertically through the air, and he could pop out and hit a 3. But Broome's going to look for matchups. He's going to try to get a guard on him in the post. And then you're right. If you do a pick and roll and he's going to the basket and Aiden or Trey or Denver gets a mid-range shot up, I mean, he's going to the basket for an offensive rebound. So he's more talented than people give him credit for.
He can finish through contact pretty well. He's got really good touch for a big man. We've seen years where there was no touch on the big man, so Austin Wiley. And so he might just see a situation where instead of throwing it up in the air to the alley-oop, you wonder if you're going to have a situation where they're doing that little move where you're driving towards the basket, throwing it up, and then kind of doing a almost like handoff situation to the big guy. I wonder if that's something you see more.
I do need to not see. This is just me being a nitpicky former middle school basketball coach here, but he really could have. We were probably going to lose the game anyway. But when you get your 5th foul, try not to get a tech.
Oh no,
when there's a 4-point game, and if I had one issue with Janai last year, it was it's just a little too much chirping, which I know that's part of our MO and our vibe, but it's just too much. The too small thing every time you make a shot is too much. He's such a good player, and he is good, setting himself up to have a really good overseas or maybe NBA career. We'll see. I would like to see a little less of that from him specifically, because first of all, he's exerting so much energy. Like just play,
I got to talk about it because Ben is a big free throw guy. If you listen to Ben on the podcast, he's going to talk about free throws. It's interesting. They hit 80% of their free throws. They shot 80% from the free throw line, and we shot 68%. I don't know exactly. We were talking about in the preseason pod through text messages, what is the average amount of free throws? Like, what is the line, the 50% line, the median line of free throws? I believe we ended up with 72 or 3% is median in college basketball. I'm going to say as long as we're shooting above 70% from the free throw line, we're fine. We're not great. We're fine. But 80% from the free throw line is really good. That's really high up there. Their guy, Jacoby Walter, which I'm bad, at least personally, about talking about the other team's players. I'm so busy watching our players that we just look up half the time and someone's got 30 points on the other team, and I haven't really thought about them. Meanwhile, the opposing fan base, that's all they're thinking about is how great this other guy's doing. All I'm thinking about is something else on our team, So you end up with 28 points, and 10 of his 28 were from the free throw line. He went 10 of 10 from the free throw line. That's their big 5-star guy at the guard position. Fantastic night for him. I don't know if you guys want to talk about him at all. I'm not great about talking about opposing players. I don't know anything about them. And there was a comment early in our YouTube chat that we always seem to let somebody go for 30. At least we did last year. We played great defense, but it always seemed like we let one guy go off. And I don't know if hopefully that's not going to continue this year, but I guess it's better if one guy goes off than a bunch, but it just hurts because we don't have guys go off for 30 very often. So why does it keep happening to us?
It always feels that way. Every team always has their best shooting performance against Auburn. Ever since I can remember.
Certain guys do. I mean, I think the big picture is we've been really good defensively the last 2 years. Like really good. Like I believe our 3-point defense was tops. Was it last year or the year before? Tops in the league. It was 2 years ago, I think, with that really good team. But the concern would be if Bruce is very public with this. He said I worry if my guards can defend at a consistent level. Aiden's pretty small. Trey's a kind of a bulldog, good defender, but you wonder. And Jacoby Walter's 6'5", I believe, and he kind of had his way. He hit some shots. We gave him some good looks early, and their second leading scorer was also one of their guards. So defending in the backcourt, and I would also count our 3 position in that. Can we defend the perimeter? Can we defend the perimeter on defense? And you're not going to win much giving up 88. I don't care how good our offense is. So it's really kind of disappointing. I'm just more of a defensive guy, and I know this team maybe early on especially. I see some pieces, though. I really think we could be better defensively than I thought. But just, weren't quite up to the challenge today. But
and if you listen to the podcast,
the guards defensively is something to track.
If you've listened to the podcast last 2 years, another big one of my things is the block party. We led the nation in blocks, I believe, 2 years ago. Walker Kessler absolutely killed it, set the record for Auburn's most blocks in a season. The next year, we were hoping with Jonai, who had a great season before his school he transferred from. I believe that was McNeese State or Murray State, one of those two. He was one of the top 5 block guys, along with Cardwell, who's a great block guy. So last year, top 15 in blocks, great time, not quite as great as the year before. Hey, this game, 10 blocks to Baylor's 4. That was a lot of fun. It was also another interesting one where I was talking about we're still learning about this new charge rule and things. There's a block or two where we just got vertical and the guys on the other side were a little thrown off and we just swatted it away. happened to us too, I believe. So that might be some of what we're talking about, where some of our guys just got some weird swats that you wouldn't have kind of thought of otherwise. It wasn't some big collision at the board. It was kind of an awkward ball got thrown up in the air and someone knocked it away. But man, 10 blocks. That's still a lot of fun. That's one of the most fun parts of basketball. A slam dunk and a block are two of the most fun plays in basketball, right? So it's just nice to have that as part of the repertoire.
Did you feel like this team, Jackson, for you especially, you're an aesthetic guy. You're like,
Yeah.
okay, we had the blocks, we hit threes, we ran, we flew, we had alley oops.
It felt like an old Bruce team, man. It felt like an old Bruce team. We talk about like, what is Bruce's teams? What are they? You know, it used to be these like scrappy guys turning the ball over the other team, doing fast break, hitting threes. It felt like we were getting closer to that, especially in the first half. That pace was crazy. This is a fun team to watch, I think. You're hitting a lot of shots beyond NBA range at times. You have a fun 5-star point guard that's hitting crazy stuff. You have a guy like Denver that hopefully can hit open threes. You got athletic guys at the forward positions and the center positions that can get some of these blocks. That's what we wanted this year. And I think I said in the preseason pod that if we had the same season as last year, but it was reversed, we had a good offense and it was fast paced and there was a lot of like fireworks, I think I would take it just to have that reversal. Sure, we want to be better than we were last year, but a second round team that kind of competes throughout the year, it has a good offense that's hitting lots of threes. That's pretty fun. And for Auburn's like historic perspective, that's great. I'm hoping after watching today that we're a little better than that, but man, it was fun to watch. It was just fun.
This team gave me Auburn 2017 through 2018 vibes, right? Like
we're a little more talented than those, right?
Very, very, very much so talented, but we had some high flyers, we had some shooters, we had a couple big men, and we ended up squeaking out the SEC that year, but we didn't really know what we had. And we had a couple, I think we're a little more talented, but that was when we kind of realized, like, all right, these are how Bruce teams are supposed to be. And, I think you kind of compare it to a couple of those teams there. And look, like, all right, so let's think about moving forward here, because I got to go to bed. I'm tired.
No more 9:00 games. I know we already have our schedule set. We have so many 9:00 games.
A lot of them. East Coast
kills me.
So Southeastern Louisiana this Friday, Notre Dame in Brooklyn, either playing Oklahoma State or St. Bonaventure, Alabama A&M, Virginia Tech, Appalachian State. Like, some pretty good games coming up here. What are y'all's thoughts about some of those matchups moving forward? Obviously it's early on. You don't know. My hope is that we can either win out the rest of that conference or lose one more, based on what I saw tonight. Baylor is our toughest game. USC is going to be really tough at home, but USC is going to have to bring it. That's going to be a weird game for them. I think we'll be fired up for that one. But they got some dudes. They got the best player in the country out of high school. Bronny James probably won't play, but they looked pretty good last night. So what are y'all's thoughts about your expectations moving forward?
You think we'll learn anything from the Southeastern Louisiana game? It almost feels like if I was playing a video game, I would just simulate that match, right?
Yeah, I'm fearful of like a slow start.
I just feel like no matter what happens in that game, I will learn absolutely nothing from it, which amazing schedule. But that's the one game on the schedule that's just like, thank God we only have one of those, because it's not going to be fun to watch probably.
So it's funny in the broadcast, they mentioned Bruce Pearl is 9-0 in opening games at Auburn, but we've played teams like Southeastern Louisiana the first game of the year. So it's funny how it's flipped.
And we're the only one that didn't. Baylor and us are the only teams that didn't do that this first weekend. It was a huge ordeal. Everybody in the national perspective was thanking Auburn for playing this game, thanking Auburn and Baylor for playing this. The only thing that redeemed the first day of basketball was Michigan State losing to James Madison, I believe. That's the only thing that made the first. It's a shame that college basketball doesn't have a big showcase first day or two like they used to.
Yeah. So that's our get right game before we go to New York. But Notre Dame, I fully expect us to win by double digits. They're horrible. They're not that good.
Ben broke them down pretty deeply on our preseason pod. Maybe Ben will make some social media content or something around there, talk about it after the South Louisiana game. I don't know much about Notre Dame. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I do know Oklahoma State, who might be our second opponent or might not be, because they lost to Abilene Christian yesterday. So that's another. I mean, they're not ranked or anything, and they got boomed by the NCAA just like we did. But they lost 64-59 to those Church of Christ boys.
Ryan makes a good point. Yeah, that was good, Ryan. Good reference. All these games do look a little better after watching this team play once. I will say, as somebody with I thought we would probably lose 3 or 4 non-conference games. We still very well could. We like Jackson said, you just got to look around college basketball and see, even at home, don't take our non-conference success at home for granted in college basketball, because it is hard to do. I don't see anybody that we should.
That game at Appalachian State's a little worrisome, just because it's a weird game.
We always seem to have a weird one, don't we? Played at Davidson one year, but it was like in like a Navy, like a naval base or something. Like we play some weird ones.
I like it. I think you got to put yourself in some of those positions.
There is usually one away game like that, right? We played at St. Louis that one time, South Alabama that one time. I guess we've had Burgo on. I don't know if we ever got a confirmation.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever South Florida not that long ago. I wonder if we got Burgo back on it, Coach Burgomaster back on again, to ask him if that's a plan. If they plan to play one odd away game just to get that under our belt for SEC play.
Yeah. It's a lot of teams are doing it. Like North Carolina played somewhere last year, and it was a big deal.
They play away in North Carolina at weird schools once a year. I wonder if they have some weird like legislation. I know that's in different sports. There are like legislations like that. Like you have to play the little team in your state for tax reasons.
There are football teams that I would like. Auburn. Sorry, but it's a different thing.
Where's my beat button at? Where's my beat button? We're one game in, and we've already said it. Come on.
No, it's not common in basketball. It's common in basketball. It's not common in the other sport. And so, and it actually builds your resume to show like, hey, you can win on the road. Even if it's in a weird environment. But yeah, I mean, from what I've seen so far, like we may slip up against Indiana, we may not, but I mean, I'm expecting maybe one more loss this offseason and maybe not, like or out of conference, because we look really freaking good, in my opinion. First game of the year, you can only get better. You can only improve from that. So why not go on a limb and say that this looks much more attainable than it did in the past?
A tradition we might have to start if we keep doing this for many more years. Me and Matt in the past have talked, hour plus about Auburn basketball. We have so many things to think about. We might have to start giving ourselves a restriction on the first couple of games, because I want to talk about so much when it comes to Auburn basketball. I want to project out so many things. We've been waiting so long for this season to start. And the earlier the season is, the stupider our takes are. That why did we talk 2 hours about Chains Westery last year? That kind of thing. So we might have to figure out a way to force ourselves to not project out too far into these. But glad you brought up the schedule there. It's going to be an interesting one. We're going to have so many good games to talk about in that at conference. I'm really excited. Maybe final thoughts here. It's been nice to have the YouTube chat going over here. So join in the games. Of course, I know it's a late one, so it's probably tough for people to log on. Maybe for some of these earlier ones, we'll have some more fun on this live stuff. We love doing it. This is just a fan podcast. If you're new to this, we just enjoy it. Me and Matt have been doing it for a little bit. Ryan and Ben have joined in. It's been a lot of fun. I don't know, final thoughts on the game, guys?
Ryan?
I mean, vibes were high up until the end. It's encouraging. It's disappointing because I think we know what we could have had, and this could have been an even much more enjoyable experience to talk about. And it is just so Auburn to do that. But I think we have a better understanding of what we can accomplish now, and what we have to look forward and what we can look for as things to point back against a team that's really good and say, yeah, we noticed that and we got better. This player got better. This player started doing this. This player started doing that. oh, our starting lineup is much more different than the first game. So, there's a lot of things you can take from it. I know it's very cliche, but it's so true in this scenario. And you can only get better from what we saw tonight moving forward. And look, like, it's also something to watch in college basketball too. Like, I was looking at Bruce's post game conference. Like, he was super pissed about the foul calls, like super vocal about it. So
When is he not though?
yeah, but I mean, look, it's you.
We still need a Steven Pearl cam. We still need to see the facial expressions from Steven. We need like different cameras on each coach, like a F1 race.
I mean, we were talking about in the game, like you could just tell, like, man, this is so ticky tacky. This is so like killing the flow of the game. Like, you saw how fun of a game it was when they weren't making those calls, and now they were, and it's
They can't let us have that much fun. It was so chaotic and so beautiful. They couldn't let us do it. It didn't make sense. Some of that you wonder. It's so chaotic and so fast. The refs are like, I don't know what's going. Like, I can't keep up with the things. I need you guys to slow down and play regular basketball so I know what calls to make and I can see everything that's going on.
I was going to say, it's the most predictable thing ever after that first half that they're going to do that. And I noticed it more from our newcomers or our guys playing bigger roles and KD, which is not surprising, but we just got to be able to adjust faster. It really did put us in a hole.
Just like the MAT system with the points that you figured out. We figured out the MAT system. If you don't know what that is, you're going to have to keep tuning into the podcast. I think there needs to be a Jackson system of the referees almost every game change the way they're calling at some point. Either late in the first half, usually a lot of times early in the second half, they come out and they just play a little different. And whoever adjusts first is the team that ends up winning the game. Or if they were down by a lot, they catch up or whatever. A lot of time, I mean, I'm sure we've had plenty of times where we're the ones that adjust first. We're the ones that start shooting 10 or 11 free throws for the other team member gets one. But we never feel that. We just feel like we're playing better. This game was one of those where it felt like the other team adjusted quicker and then we fell apart. It didn't help at the beginning of the game. They scored so quickly too, but it's just, we'll find a name for that one. Whatever the adjustment is, the moment the referees start changing things up.
And ultimately, just because they're not calling it in the first half doesn't mean you're not fouling. And I think sometimes we, like the players, I'm sure it's hard to but we were fouling in the first half. They just weren't, we were able to get away with it and be kind of a little smarter with it. So anyway, Ryan, you have anything else to do?
Yeah, well, I'm going to sign off anyways. Thanks for coming, everybody. Lastly, if you're still around, if you're still listening, give us like a review or comment or whatever on the podcast app. We don't really care that much, but it's nice to see people interact. It's been nice to see people on YouTube. Make sure you buy your tickets for the New York Auburn game, or at least tune in. Let me know if you're coming up to Brooklyn. If you live in the city, or if you're coming up for the game, would love to meet some people that listen to the podcast. It's been a lot of fun the last couple of seasons. We're looking forward to a next season under Bruce Pearl in the golden age of Auburn basketball. It might have been a loss tonight, but man, has it been fun. Thanks, guys. War Eagle. Cool, we're still live. Thanks, chat from the live. If there's any last thoughts on the chat, on the VIP YouTube stuff here, let me know. I'll give it another couple seconds. Ryan's already gone. This was cool. I don't know if you got to keep up with the chat or not, Matt.
No.
Yeah, you'd have to pull it up, I guess. I just have it pulled up over here anyways. 68 minutes we were live.
Nice. Yeah,
I like that. I don't have to put the YouTube video up. It's just up.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. So, yeah.
Not that many people are watching I don't know. We've gone up and down with the YouTubes. When I was posting consistently, it was doing good. I got bad about waiting several hours to post it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going off of it. Thanks, guys. War Eagle. How do I stop this thing?